Alright, so I was originally just gonna type up some feedback, but in going through the first room alone, I realized there was quite a lot that I wanted to point out, and I felt as though it would be just easier to do it as a video format. I'm not an expert TASer by any means, but I've been around the block and I've picked up a few things, and hopefully I can relay some of that. So right off the bat, great job on the annotations, like the level divisions, the 40, and then the name. All of that is perfect. The restart, the waiting, the 1S, 1 down jump. Great job on that. Now at the beginning you'll notice here, if I can just get to here. So this is the first frame, theoretically, that you have input, but nothing's happening, right? You've started a dash, but nothing's currently going on screen. And if you'll notice that 1, 2, 3, 4, at the end of the 4 frames you still haven't started the dash. So I believe what's actually happening here is that you've got 34 frames of delay, and this dash begins 1 frame later. So we should just be able to do that. And in fact, let's just skip ahead a bit. It's not that far ahead. Yeah, so now you can see the dash has begun on the first frame. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the 4 frames that you pause during every dash. And then 1, 2. Now, I want to point out here, if you'll notice that when you do this corner boost right here, you're currently, your speed is 0, meaning that Madeline has already hit the wall here. And you can see that after the corner boost, she comes away from the wall with a speed of 312, which is actually less than the speed she's coming into the wall at, 320. Now, 1 frame earlier, Madeline is against the wall, as you can see. She's able to grab it, so we can do a 2-frame jump, and then a corner boost, and that'll give her a speed of 352, which is significantly greater. When you're doing a corner boost, you only get the extra momentum if Madeline is next to the wall, meaning that it says wall left or wall right on the little spot right here, but has not yet bumped into the wall so that her speed is not yet 0. I noticed that you're also trying to do this sort of a double corner boost here, which is fine. It doesn't cost any speed, but it does cause you to lose stamina. And again, each boost only gains speed if she's next to the wall but has not yet hit it. So a double corner boost is really only effective when she's moving at a very slow speed, so that she can jump twice in that frame, in that 2-pixel area before hitting the wall. This part I really like, the corner boost off that second corner, and then slowing down just enough to perfectly land on top of this platform. That's really nice. And you'll notice a couple things actually I want to point out here. First of all, out of this dash you get a speed of 375, but as soon as you jump, this speed gets cut to 325 because that's the speed you get from a hyper. If you were to just yoink there, if you were to just continue this grounded ultra, then you can save your 375 speed and travel much farther, and you even get your dash back, so you could do like a 14 and then 1 jump. And now you do drop to 325, but you've moved so much farther in that time than you would with a hyper bunny hop. You could probably also do the jump first, which then gives you a speed of 346, because every time you jump you gain a bit of speed. And if you do the grounded ultra now, you're at 415, which is significantly faster. In this case it doesn't really matter, because you're trying to hit that gap down there anyway, but it's worth keeping in mind. And it might actually be faster if you can boost over and then dash straight down instead of dashing down left like you do in this one. Okay, so again, I want you to notice here, because this is important every time you do a hyper bunny hop. You've got, so 1 frame of dash, and then you're paused for 3 frames, that gives you 4. And then you're dashing for 1 frame, you do a hyper bunny hop that takes 9 frames, so that's a total of 14 frames since you started the dash. Now every time you dash, you can't dash again until 15 frames later. So even though you're trying to dash on this frame, you'll notice that the dash doesn't come out until 1 frame later. So instead what you can do is do 6 there, and then actually that gets you a bit too far to do the bunny hop, so I guess that's why you did it. But yeah, you essentially want to wait 15 frames before you dash, and even if that's not what you're doing in the inputs, you still want to reflect it in the TAS. So in this case I would probably do something like, instead of a 1 jump and then 5 left down X, do a 2 there and a 3 there, so that we can actually see what's going on. Regardless though. So this is interesting. You've hit the wall now, and you've got 5 more frames before you enter the next screen. And you'll notice in the next screen, you're actually too far to the left. When you dash down here, you bonk into this ledge and it wastes time. So it might be worth it over here, when you're doing the 15 down, as soon as you hit the wall, so 10 down and then 5 right down, and that gets you a little further to the right into the next screen, which then you might even be able to in some way get far enough over to the right that this downright dash doesn't even hit the platform, it just grazes past it, and then you can maybe regain your dash and keep going. Anyway, yeah, I think even for this purpose, because you hit this platform pretty hard and then you have to wait a substantially long time here before you can get around that thing. It might be, I'm just gonna play around with this a bit. Let's try, ideally you'd want to be farther to the left on the previous screen, but let's try something like 2 down and then just jump a bit to the right and then down. Yeah, you can see we just grazed past the platform there, and then we could use that extra momentum to get us falling a lot faster and then regain a dash probably on one of those platforms, or maybe even, you'll notice that after 10 frames I'm hovering right above this platform. If I manipulated my position so that I was 2 pixels lower, I could actually be standing on the platform right now, and then when I graze past it on the next frame I would regain my dash, and I could use that later on. So in general, you want to find, not necessarily like as soon as you enter the room, what's the fastest thing I can do at this point, you know, dash as soon as possible. You want to think a little bit about what is the cleanest way to get through this room? How could I make Madeline just squeeze through everything without colliding with it? But okay. This is interesting right here. You do a reverse hyper. So let's have a look at this a bit more closely. First of all, what happens in the next frame? Okay, so again, you dash immediately, and you land after... I'm just gonna edit this a bit, because I'm not sure exactly how many frames it took to land. Actually, is that when you get the dash? No, because you can see again, your dash timer here is at 0, so you don't actually get the dash out as early as you'd like. This is probably closer to... Well, let's find out. So, dash timer is 1, dash timer is 0, so after 3 frames into the room is the earliest that you can dash again. And then we do this, and land after 12. So in fact, because you're landing after 12 frames, as soon as you then jump, your speed is going to go back to a 325, which is exactly the same speed as a hyper. You can corner boost here then, but ideally, if you're going for a reverse hyper like you were on the previous screen, you want enough momentum that you can turn it into an ultra, which you're not getting if you don't spend 15 frames in the dash. Moreover, because you're doing it this way, you'll notice that you're pretty deep into the platform when you actually do the dash, and I'm not sure if you can... This might be fine. It's hard to tell because of the way the room is laid out, but I'm willing to bet that more likely what you want to do in this case is... In fact, let's just try going down really fast. Where do you end up? Pretty much right there. Okay, so let's try... And you'll notice, first of all, that your speed when holding down is 240, which is pretty fast. As soon as you let go of down, that speed starts to drop, so I'm not sure why you did that there, because it just means it takes you longer to get to the platform. Moreover, your speed when dashing down and to the right is 169, so just barely faster than your speed from a fast fall. And you don't even have enough time here to regain your dash. Not that it would make a difference anyway, because you can't use that dash before it gets refilled by the screen transition. So what I'm proposing is, let's say, spend 56 of these frames going left, use the rest of them to go straight down, and then as soon as you land on the platform, you can do just a regular hyper, like that. And it'll produce the same effect without having to waste time slowing down and doing the reverse hyper. In general, reverse hypers aren't that useful in TASing because there are almost always better alternatives. The only time a reverse hyper is really useful is if you can turn it into an ultra, because you don't have enough room to get an ultra from a regular extended hyper. Okay, so get down here. Okay, that was a good corner boost. That time you do actually get the extra speed. You'll notice up to 356. And this one as well, it looks like. So land down there, do a jump. That all seems fine. You might have been able to get another jump off of that ice platform right there instead of doing just the corner boost, but no real harm done there. That's a nice little touch there, saving your dash in order to get past this platform instead of using it too early and then potentially wasting time in a later section. Nice corner pop. And alright, this is interesting. Doing a demo hyper here as opposed, or a demo up dash. Okay, yeah, for one, it does look like this is about the perfect place to use a demo up dash, because if you were to use a regular up dash, then it would align slightly differently, I'm guessing, right? If you were to just do 8 up X. So after 8, you end up at negative 2274.0. But doing it this way, negative 2275.0. Yeah, so that's great. Using the demo to get a little more height out of that. Although you do still graze against that corner, so it might not make a difference. But good on you to keep that sort of thing in mind. Okay, this is interesting, going for this corner. What would happen if you just extended this farther? I'm guessing it wouldn't get all the way over to the platform. Yeah, I see. So because of that, because this doesn't get all the way over to the platform, you have to do a sort of grab this and then climb up there, which feels slow to me. It feels like you might be able to do, or even, let's see, it feels like you might be able to, Celeste TAS, what are you doing? Oh, it's because I have 2 of them next to each other. Yeah. It feels like you might be able to even extend the ceiling pop a little farther. Maybe not. I'm gonna try something. And then get a boost off of this corner. Not quite. But I also did wait pretty long on that boost, so let's try the most you can get is 20. Obviously I could probably go lower than that. That might be enough to get us on top of the platform. It might not, and I guess my real point here is that it's worth considering these alternatives. In this case, you might have already considered it and tested it to see which one's faster, in which case, great on you. I assume that in that case, you should probably also test just a regular diagonal upright dash here, which doesn't look like it would be faster, but might be. As well as just anything else that's feasible in this scenario. But alright, so jump up to here. Okay, just slide past there, get the refill. It looks like you might be able to get enough, to get far enough to the left in order to get a demo hyper off of this platform, but I'm not sure about that. Let's just have a look at 5 right jump, 49 left down. So if we were to do 5 right jump, in fact, so let's do 4 right jump, 1 left jump, and then 48 or 49 left down, and just see. Okay, yeah. In that case, what you might consider doing is extending the jump just a little farther. What am I doing wrong? Oh, okay. I extended a little farther but didn't make the turnaround earlier. It might not. 14, it's close. So let's try 3 and 3. Yeah, so that would do it if we just do a... Okay, so 50 here, 4 down X, 10X. Something like that. If we swing out a little farther to the left, then we can get onto this platform with a demo dash and then use that to, well, theoretically bunny hop straight into that gap and then maybe dash down, I don't know. It looks faster, I'm not sure if it actually is. But yeah, so I guess the takeaway here would be that, and in fact you might not even need to extend the jump in order to do this. You might be able to, whoops. You might be able to just do a longer demo dash here. Let's say 5. Something like that. So extend your demo along this platform. Let's try 6. Just so that the jump is later, and then... Okay, so we're about a tile and a half away from where I want to be. So again, I could do the jump a little bit longer, or I could just extend this out 1 tile and a half, and then do the jump. And now, well, that's way too far out, so never mind that. Like I said, I'm not the best at TASing, but just considering all of these possibilities in situations like this. Okay, so you go down, you grab that, and then yeah, you can see instead of having to wait and do another dash and then a down dash, you might be able to just get a bunny hop straight into there. Okay, this is the one place where a reverse ultra makes sense, because it's going to get you straight down to that platform. However, I do wonder... right here. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Because probably... what I'm thinking is like... But probably even if you get a little lower and try and do a downwards dash... No, this is fine. Okay, so 13, 40... and then do... looks like we need to be a bit lower. Okay, so we're still on the platform at 10, which is good, because that means we'll get our dash back. And then 1, 2, 3, 4... It probably doesn't matter in this scenario, because the platform we're trying to get to is so precise. But you'll notice how doing the leftward dash, I end up a little bit farther off the platform than I do with just a reverse. And in fact, I probably get a little bit more speed out of it too. Let's just see. Doing this, I end up on the platform down here, because you'll notice I can do a 1 left jump before the ultra, whereas here you need to jump for 7 frames before you can do the ultra. So I end up on the platform with a speed of 221, whereas this version ends up on the platform with a speed of 215. So yeah, in general, if you can avoid doing a reverse hyper, do it, because just a straightforward hyper will, generally speaking, be faster. In this case, it's a little finicky because you have to wait on the previous screen in order to do a down right dash, but I just wanted to point that out because I know it comes up in other places in this TAS. But alright, let's see. So start out with another... Okay, this is good. These inputs right here. I don't know if you got these from the Discord or you just figured them out on your own, but that is definitely how you want to start out here. Okay, so Hyper Bunny Hop. And then... Oh, that was interesting. Hang on, what happened there? One, two, three, four, five, six, 7. Am I wrong? Are these not the right inputs? Let me see. Please. There we go. Ah, okay. So what happened here is you actually, once again, you started this a little bit too early. You'll notice how Madeline has just landed on the platform. So this is the frame where she can start to dash, not the frame before. So you probably want this to actually be 41. Because now she lands, and now she does the demo dash. And then jump, and now on this frame, she can begin the grounded ultra. Whereas with the 40... does the jump, but now she still has one more frame left in her dash. So she doesn't actually get the 7 left down X until this frame, which costs a bit of time as well as a bit of speed. And I'm not sure why you're doing this jump so early. And I'm also not sure why this is a 39 instead of a 40. Because that should probably be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, she's still paused. So actually one of these frames is part of that. And you'll notice again, by doing this so right now her speed is 388, which is pretty good. By doing this jump right here, instantly gets cut to 325, which is not what you want. You probably wanted to continue this to the full extent of that, so 8 here, I'm guessing 8, and then slide into the next room, and then because the dash lasts 15 frames, there would be another 7 frames in the dash, so you would use 6 of those to continue the ultra and then turn that into a hyper. So something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, slide into the next screen, and now you keep this 388 momentum to the bitter end, and then you can start your hyper. But okay. So you do another right there. I'm not sure what the F there is for. That's for joystick movement, isn't it? I don't know. I've never personally used that, but that's interesting. Okay, so corner boost. You could probably, if you spent a little bit of time working with subpixel manipulations, be able to hit this platform in such a way that you don't land on it, but you still get your dash back, so you maintain your downwards momentum and slide down into this corridor a little bit faster. Which I'm not going to try to do too hard, but let's just have a look. So this was a 2, and then 14. I'm guessing 3 doesn't work. it does not, which is why you did 2. But I could try doing 2 and then just 1 extra frame floating in the air. So, also it's worth noting that this probably never comes into effect because Madeline is never moving at 160 downward speed, so this would effectively be equivalent to just that. Holding down only really changes her momentum if she's already traveling downwards at terminal velocity. But okay, so I won't explain the 5 too much, but suffice it to say that once you let go of jump, there's 5 frames in which holding jump does nothing. But now holding jump does change her speed. You'll notice we got a 7.5 dip in speed instead of a regular 15. And now if we keep going, that time we still hit the platforms. Let's try 2 there. And you can see there, I'm on the ground, but my speed is still 90. So on the next frame, it's still going to be 90, and I'm going to be traveling downwards. Well, if I wasn't... I guess that's why you do the down, so that you don't slide against the wall. That makes sense. But you'll notice that her speed gets much faster than it would simply bonking against the ground and then falling. Alright, so do that, and then a demo dash under there. That makes sense. It feels like there might be a faster way to do that, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. Okay, fall down to this screen. That seems fine. Double bunny hop of those. You might be able to use the speed of the platforms, but that would also require waiting for them, so maybe not. Okay, another corner boost. Another 2 corner boosts. This one, you might be able to get ultra momentum off of that top right platform if you... well, let's see. Okay, so you don't have a dash there. But starting here, let's say... just for experimental purposes. So we do get our dash back, but this might be, I'm guessing, too fast in order to make it where you're attempting to go. Oh, we don't get our dash back, never mind, so that's probably not worth it. Okay, so we hit that. Again, if you could, I'm not sure if you can in this instance, but hit that platform on the left side and do a regular extended hyper. Let's just see. So, yeah, I'll do it here. So 15 left down X. And the reason I'm doing 15 is because during the first 15 frames of a dash, you can't change anything about the momentum, so there's no reason trying. But now, if we immediately turn around... okay, can't quite get as far to the right as we would need to be, but I could also try doing, instead of 4 left, doing, I don't know, 4 right, just to slow myself down a bit. And then, yeah, so now we land on the right side of the platform, and we can do a regular, and in fact that's going to hit the wall, isn't it? So let's just do 1. We can do a regular extended hyper, and that'll get us significantly farther to the left when we start the hyper than doing a reversal. So okay, land on that platform. There might be a way to cause that first down left dash you do to break the block, or if not, then simply to slide off the platform a bit farther and break it. But I'm not sure about that. Break it with a down, yeah, just straight downwards dash this is. Okay, now this is interesting. Because you end up... Okay, no. I see what you're doing here. Yeah, that makes sense. So then you can get the straight downwards dash into the next screen. Again, I think your 40 here is one frame too early. Because if you'll notice, I'm on this screen. I've now supposedly held left for one frame, but it's not reflected in my speed because I only just unpaused. So I think your screen transitions are just a little bit off. Alright, but let's see. Okay, so this one, you do a... Oh, it's not even a hyper bunny hop, it's just a... Interesting. I assume that was to... Yeah, okay, so in this case it probably doesn't make a difference because the limiting factor is getting underneath this pillar here. Actually, no, yeah, it does, because if you'll notice, in this case... Whoops, that's pretty far back. By doing the reverse hyper here, you hit the ground there, and all of a sudden your speed is set to 0, which you could avoid by doing, presumably, 2 frames of jump, something like that, which would get you past the platform a lot quicker, and so you can fall a lot faster, but then you lose your dash. Which, it's interesting, I'm not sure why you're doing 8 left and then 8 right down X, when you could be doing something like, let's see, if this is going to become 14 and that needs to become 2. So 1, 2. Oh, I see, you can't dash that early. Okay, so 1, 2, so 4, 3, 4. Should be able to do 10. Okay, 11. And then do the reverse, and that way you still keep your dash, because it's because as long as you spend 10 frames before you hit the ground, you keep your dash. You don't bonk on that platform, so you go a lot lower, and you get underneath the spike a lot quicker. You could also probably do, and again, this goes into the thing where there's no real reason to use reverse hypers unless you have a good reason. You could probably just swap that around, change it to an extended dash down this way, and you would end up, you obviously hit the wall a lot sooner, but it doesn't matter because your speed is going to be the same either way. Like, regardless of how you do this, this hyper, whether it's to the left or to the right, your downwards velocity doesn't change, and that's the limiting factor here. Okay. So if you do this, sneak under there, you might be able to do that a little bit earlier, but that's not really a huge issue. Okay, this is interesting, actually. Notice how here, I believe you did it correctly. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is the first frame that you're against the wall. And then you attempt to jump. But instead, Madeline grabs the wall for 1 frame and then jumps. And you'll see this happening a lot. This is actually because Madeline is too close to the wall. So she's able to grab it if you make her just a little bit further away, so let's try 20 left and then let go. So we let go, so we slow down, and actually that's not even slowed down enough, so let's try 19 and 4. Yeah, so now you'll notice Madeline is in the same position, but she's one more frame away from the wall. And this is important because now she's not capable of grabbing the wall, so when we do a jump, it comes out immediately. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, that makes sense. It also feels like this room you could have, instead of demo dashing underneath the spike, you could have fallen a bit farther to the left and possibly just used your dash to dash up. So essentially something like your extended hyper and then dash up here and climb over, as opposed to having to climb both this wall. Do you climb this wall? Why do you climb that wall? Actually, hang on a sec. Could you not simply make this jump? Yeah, it feels like you should be able to just make the jump straight from those spikes over to the left. So that's a little bit of a... I don't know what you'd call that. A lot of TASing is finding the best way through the room, and sometimes it's not even... Like, I don't know how your personal process works, but when I'm TASing, I'll generally sort of play through the room normally and try a couple different strategies and see what works and what doesn't, and what might be worth doing in a TAS. And there's obviously other things you could do, like maybe you could land on this spring and then corner boost off of there, or land on this spring and then corner boost off of there. So it's worth trying out different possibilities, just playing the game normally before you begin to crack down on a room in Celeste TAS. Okay, that ultra makes sense because it gets you cleanly into here. Okay, now this is interesting. So right here. Whoops. Notice how here... Okay, that one you probably can't do anything about. Here... So you spend 10, 11, 12, 13... and then you land. And... so realistically what this is a... I'm just gonna fix this up a little bit. Because it's slightly bothering me that it doesn't match the... So 10 there, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 11, 12, 13, 14, land on the ground, and then you get a jump out. And you'll notice your jump immediately goes back to this 325, because it's a hyper, because you hit the ground after 14 frames. I suspect that if I just change this to 6, now Madeline will hit the ground after 15 frames, and now when she jumps, 397. Much faster, because now it's an ultra instead of just a hyper. And then you can continue that momentum into the next screen as well. You might even be able to do a... I'm not going to TAS this because it would take a little bit of time, but you might even be able to do like a hyper bunny hop there into an ultra onto the next one, into an ultra onto the next one. Actually, you know what, let's TAS this because I'm not going to be able to do it manually. So this is one of the few instances in which a a reverse hyper can be useful. So let's try 14, left. And actually, I'm already going to be on the ground after this, just because the platform is coming up to meet me, aren't I? Yeah. So, 100... This is slightly over-exaggerating, but as long as I get 15 before I hit the platform, 15, which I do. So ideally, you'd want this to be exactly 15. So something like 5, maybe. Nope, that's a bit too low. So 6. Okay, close enough. You want it to be 15 before you hit the platform. I got 16, but that's fine. Let's just try 5. 3, 4, 5. And then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Again, 16. A little bit too much, but that's fine. As long as it's not 14 or lower, because that'll instantly set our speed to 325. But by spending 15 frames in between these ultras, we build up a whole bunch of speed. You can see 494. Now the question is, the way I started this sequence with a reverse hyper is slow, because we have to reverse and then we have to bunny hop, and that takes time over just doing it the normal way. However, we build up so much speed that it might make the next room faster. So ideally you'd probably want to TAS both of those options and see which one comes out on top. But yeah, anywhere you see these sort of descending steps like this, like up and then down, and then you can do another hyper and bunny hop and another hyper, you can chain ultras together, and that is the best way to build up speed in this game. Okay, got a corner jump there. This one feels completely unnecessary. Not only are you... first of all, you're killing your speed, because you already had a pretty nice setup going here. If you just... kept going this way, well, assuming you didn't hit the platform, you could just skim straight down and keep all your speed, and because your fast fall speed gets up to 240, which is faster than your dash speed, it's sometimes worth it just not dashing and just spending that extra time to get up to terminal velocity as quickly as possible, which I assume would probably be the case in this. But beyond that, your limiting factor here is this wall, right? You need to get past this wall, and because you're spending the time to go back to the right and then back to the left, you'll notice that all the extra speed you get from this ultra is just instantly lost because you hit this wall. So you don't even gain the benefits of this ultra. You might get a bit right here when you do this jump. Yeah, so you get a speed of 308, which is pretty nice, but my gut impression is that you could go much faster with just a regular fast fall, or possibly even do this corner boost a little bit lower so that you land on the ground right here, and then jump a little bit, and then do the ultra down to the left. And indeed, you get this beautiful extra 308 speed, and then you use it for 1 frame, because immediately after you're already wall bouncing, which is probably the right call here, but it's worth noting that all the extra speed that you get from that ultra doesn't really do you anything, and it only makes it slower to get down to that lower platform. That's pretty nice. Oh, very nice. Just slide all the way over there. Okay. This one is interesting. It feels like a lot of the time when you have a small platform like this, and you do a hyper followed by a down dash like that, a lot of the time it's faster to just do a demo B hop and then go straight down. Because you'll notice I start falling immediately, and actually this might be a bit short. Oops. Ah, what's going on? This might be a bit short. But I reach my terminal velocity so much quicker. I'm already up to 210, 215, 220, 240. Right? And then two things. A, I have a dash left. So instead of falling all the way to the ground, I could have dashed down and to the left and probably gone a bit faster than... hello? There we go. I could have, when I was right here, I could have used it to dash down to the left and go straight for this corner. And the other thing this does is that I build up speed so quickly, whereas doing this, you notice your speed starts out at 169, and then you have to wait for it to get up to 240. So even though it gets to 240 at around the same spot, just doing the hyper starts that process so much earlier that it, like with the down left ultra, you spend 15 frames in the dash waiting at 169 speed, whereas with the hyper you spend 15 frames building up to 169 speed. So whether or not it's faster, usually it is, just because you keep your dash, and if the distance is very great. But yeah, that's a small thing right there, and as usual, it's worth testing both options to see which one is faster. That reverse right there feels completely unnecessary. I'm not sure if it is. Okay, let's just see something. So here, you do a 13, and then this should actually be 10, shouldn't it? Yeah, because you end up down here at 10. I'm not sure why this is 43 either. That's interesting. Let me just see. So 10, and then you end up down here at 647. I'm curious if we were to just do a something like that. This might not work because you might be too close, but just a simple, yeah, a little bit too close. So what if we just do, but again, we could fix this by, instead of doing, I'm gonna mess up the inputs here and have no idea where anything is, so I'll try to be careful about that. But we could spend a little bit of time, as soon as we hit this wall, like, let's say like 22, and then spend the next 8 frames falling to the right. Or the next 9 frames. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not sure what it is. 9, 10. Okay, so that was even a bit too far, so let's try 23 and 8. No control at 40.528, so you can see that shaves off almost a tenth of a second, actually more than a tenth of a second, just by, instead of doing a reverse hyper, just by doing a regular old demo hyper and adjusting our position a little bit beforehand so that we go where we want to. Let me see if I completely messed up the TAS file or if this is still going to work. Okay, no, it looks good. No, I messed this up, didn't I? That should be that. Yeah, that looks better. And I suspect the same thing's going to happen here where you do... Yeah. This one might make sense because I'm not sure if you can do a downright dash to get down here without grazing that corner. But again, even if that is the case, I don't believe there's a reason to do a reverse ultra like that when you could just do a regular forward ultra. I guess maybe because it would send you too far, but it might also just work to do something like that, like a simple up and then fall down. Because again, the speed you get just from a simple hyper like that, the downward speed, is comparable to the speed you get doing something like that. So really there's no reason to do a reverse here. But alright, let's keep going. Almost at the end. You hit that platform. That might be avoidable. Let's have a look. So you have this, and then you try and curve around, but lo and behold, it's not enough. One thing you might be able to do is, instead of doing 8 left here, turn that into like, I don't know, 4 left and then 4 of nothing, which is going to make you go a bit slower and then possibly have enough speed. Yeah, that should be enough to get the turnaround. Another thing you can do is you could try doing 36 to the left instead. Ah, I see, that gets you all the way to that wall, so that's why. But you could try and manipulate your speed so that you just smack perfectly against this corner right there and then start going down into the right. That might be something to consider, so let's try, like, I don't know, 20 left and then 16 right. Way too far. How about 10 and 26? Okay, a little bit too far. How about 8 and 28? That looks like it's gonna do it. Let's just change this to left. There we go. So now we hit the wall at 3, and then we can use the rest of it to start going to the right, which might still not make it past the platform. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So probably your better bet would be changing this guy. Or maybe even doing... No, that wouldn't work, never mind. There's some circumstances in which you can dash past a platform and just graze it to get your dash back, but it looks like this is a bit too narrow to do that. Okay, so you do a downwards dash there. It feels like we might be able to go a bit lower and avoid grabbing this platform. I'm not sure at all what's going on here. This feels just very slow. That's what feels like a needless number of dashes. You might be able to just go down here and dash straight to the platform, or if you really want to do this, then you might be able to just squeeze past the block and grab that wall instead. Or possibly even do a ceiling pop off of the moving block. Not that I'm going to be able to grab a ceiling pop. like that, but do a ceiling pop off the bottom and land here. And again, I think that once you do land here, probably what you want to do, instead of doing a forwards dash for this many and then a downwards dash, is probably just doing a singular... Oh, what happened there? I see, it's one more frame before we can actually... Something like that, but then avoid hitting the platform, obviously, and make your dash long enough. Goodness. Make your dash long enough that you just skim off the platform like that and fall down. And even then you can skim off the platform and dash down as soon as you get your dash back. The fact that you're sort of... you're going slower because your dash speed is 203 here, and if you were to do a demo hyper, then it would be 240. But both of those are significantly slower than the 325 that you get from a hyper. And you have to wait all that time until you get here in order to do your next dash anyway. So it doesn't actually save that much time in the long run. Okay, this is nice. Doing just a regular down left dash instead of reverse hyper. But I guess you can't do a reverse hyper there anyway. And then ultra, squeeze right past that corner. That was a pretty nice room. Well done on that one. Again, the reverse here, I'm willing to bet that you can get away with just something like that. So 12 of these, and then whatever else you're doing. Oh, you're doing a hyper bunny hop, but you probably don't even need to do the hyper bunny hop because you can just start with this, and then 1, 2, 3, and then whatever else you're trying to do, without having to do the reversal and spend all that extra time. So let's see, you do a hyper bunny hop, corner boost, that's fine. You could probably use, instead of landing here and doing an extra dash like that, instead of landing, so here you get a speed of 275, but if you were to just, you get a lot of speed out of that corner boost, so I suspect that if you were to just do another jump there, 262, not great. It's close. It might be worth it. Of course, the advantage of that means that you can use your dash again after 10 frames, instead of here where you have to wait a good 15 frames before you can dash again. And then this room... Okay, this one, a reverse ultra actually does make sense because of how much speed you get off of this platform. And again, you'll notice you spend 15 frames before landing, which means that your speed coming off of it is substantially greater. But I bet that if you, instead of dashing down from here, so you can't use your dash again until there, because you're locked in from the previous screen, if you just do an extra jump here, then you'll be able to dash instantly and get your ultra off of here instead of down here, which will be just a little bit faster. So something like that. And you might be able to start that dash a little bit earlier because you hit the heart after 9 frames as opposed to after... Whoops. You hit the heart after 9 frames as opposed to after 15. So let's just see. If we were to make this a 15, we'd add... Or 14, I guess. If we were to make it a 14, we'd add 5 frames to this and subtract 5 frames from this. So let's just try that. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then... Not quite. Okay, I see the problem. What if we were to make this a lot lower, and then make this a demo dash? Yeah, not quite. Okay. It does feel like it might be possible to hit that heart faster, but I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it. But other than that, yeah. For a first task, this is really nice. It does a lot of things well. It's well annotated for a start. It's got a lot of... It doesn't waste time needlessly. And overall, the strats, like corner boosting and ultras, they're there. They're just not quite perfect yet. So I guess if I had to summarize this into a bit of advice going forward, make sure that your dashes are actually starting where you think they are, because sometimes you'll still be in the dash timer, which you can see down here, in which case your dash will not be starting exactly when you think it's starting, which can cause things like, well, I'm doing a 7-frame bunny hop, why can I not dash after 3 frames of jumping? And it'll be very confusing. So try and get your frames to line up with the TAS. Don't use reverse hypers, ever. I forget who said that, but I totally agree with it. I think it might have been Connor or someone. And just in general, spend a little bit of time like monkeying around with the room, playing it normally, seeing what strats you can do as human, before you start going in and tassing it. Which I will say this, a big part of tassing is figuring out what other people have done before as well. And there is in this case, there's a speed run of the Forsaken City backwards in 51.697 that I think might have saved you quite a bit of time, just stealing some of the strats from him and applying it to the TAS. It's always great to have a point to start out with, and then if you think you see some things that the TAS can do faster, go for it. And yeah, for each room you're doing, come up with like 2 or 3 different possibilities that might be equally fast, and TAS all of them and compare them and see which one is actually the fastest. Yeah, that's pretty much all the advice I have for this. Sorry that it ended up being like an hour-long video, but yeah, I hope I was able to help in some small way and didn't come off as too condescending or rude. Really, for a first TAS, it is a pretty nice one, and I look forward to seeing your work in the future.